Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Daily on the Greenland True Sports Network. Inside Boxing Daily is brought to you, as always, by the Retired Boxers Foundation. Make sure you check out Alex Ramos and Jackie Richardson over on Facebook. I am your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome in my co-host, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
Yeah. It's a good night, man. Let's talk some boxing.
Yeah, I mean, I ordered yesterday. I didn't tell you this, but I ordered a Tyson Fury Gypsy King T-shirt yesterday, so that'll be here shortly.
Oh, I'm jealous, man. You got to take pics and put that on our social media profiles, and we'll get all sorts of likes with that one.
Oh, yeah, we will, from some people from England. All right, now, in an effort to speed up negotiations between the IBF, WBA, WBO, so-called heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua and Kermit Pulev, the IBF has ordered a purse bid for March 3rd in their headquarters in Springfield, New Jersey. The Johnson-Pulev fight is supposed to be taking place on June 20th at the Hotspurs Stadium in Tottenham in London, England. What do you think about this fight, number one?
I mean, besides, it's the best fight in the heavyweight division. I mean, I don't think there's, no, I mean, come on. Pulev is one of those guys who's been waiting his turn for quite a while now. And again, I hate all the mandatory nonsense. I mean, I think it's a convenient excuse, to fight guys like Pulev. I mean, and Pulev was actually a pretty solid operator in his prime, but currently I think he's past his best, and he's just been waiting his turn for, I think quite a while now. I think he's been in the crosshairs of Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua for, 2 years now, I believe. It's been a while, so this was bound to happen. I mean, me and pretty much everybody who follows this type of stuff saw it coming from a mile away. It's a decent fight. I mean, Pulev to me is a pretty good fighter still. Again, he's past his best. Even at his best, I don't think he overcomes Anthony Joshua, but he's technical. He had a good amateur background, knows how to jab well, not a big hitter. He's kind of like a real watered down Klitschko, where he jabs a lot and fights tall. But he lacks good power. I mean, he's not the kind of guy who's going to put you away with one shot. He's a good fighter. I think he's a top 10-ish kind of guy. But I mean, I'm not that excited about it. I mean, because of his lack of power and the fact that he's past his best, I just think this is a clear win for Joshua. And if Joshua gets upset somehow, that's a real big roadblock put in his way.
All right, so Fury's co-promoter Frank Warren also says that they're interested in trying to get Wilder to step aside so that Fury and Joshua fight can take place next.
Yeah, if only. I would love if that was the case. I don't know, all the contractual stipulations that are, interwoven into those pieces of paper that they spilled ink on, but I mean, I'd love it. I mean, I would really like to see Fury versus Joshua as soon as possible. I just don't think it's going to happen. And if Wilder if he believes even half of the excuses that he's making, maybe he really thinks that he has a chance to win the third fight. I mean, I don't really think he believes that he wins it, but maybe the excuses are helping soften the blows a little bit. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's come to grips with it a little bit. But like, we've talked about and we've had on the website, he's never going to be the same kind of guy, but I would love to see it. I really would. That's the best fight in the heavyweight division. It would be huge, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Wilder's going to step aside. And as we talked about on Sunday, I just think there's too much risk in stepping aside for Deontay Wilder at this point.
All right, and it looks like Billy Joe Saunders will need a fight now, and he was on Twitter today asking for dance partners for his next fight. And UK boxing writer Gareth A. Davies said that very good sources have indicated to him that Canelo will be fighting Callum Smith May the 2nd in Las Vegas. And I can tell you this, I think I would rather see that than Billy Joe Saunders. So where's Billy Joe go from here? And you think Callum Smith can give Canelo problems?
All right. Well, let's answer the first question first. I mean, I think that Billy Joe Saunders is going to struggle for dance partners because Callum Smith seemed like the most lucrative payday for him at 168. I would love to see Billy Joe Saunders go back down to 160. I mean, he just hasn't looked good at 168. He doesn't carry the weight well, and he looks as if he's not training hard enough, right? Like a lot of these guys, it looks like they're training hard and boiling down to get to a division. Saunders just doesn't wear 168 that well. I mean, he doesn't wear 160 that well either. I mean, he just doesn't look like he's putting all of his effort into it. And I know he's had bouts of inactivity and some of the other stuff, but it's like, where does he go? I mean, he could fight John Ryder, who a lot of people thought beat Callum Smith. It's not a great styles matchup, but it's two pretty good southpaws going at it. It's a domestic fight. I've heard, Demetrius Andrade would think about it. And again, I don't know how serious this is, but I saw it on Twitter. I think in an exchange, Demetrius Andrade said he would go up to 168 to meet him. I would be happy with that, even though I'd much prefer them to fight at 160 like they were scheduled to. But I don't think there's a lot of options because politically, he's not going to get David Benavidez. He's not going to get Caleb Plant, or at least I highly doubt it. So it's like, what does he do? I mean, Callum Smith made the most sense. And in regard to Callum Smith, does he give Canelo fits? I mean, he's better than Rocky Fielding. I mean, he's arguably the best. I think on resume and the fact that he officially got the decision over John Ryder, even though I felt John Ryder won, and I know most people did, and there were some cries of robbery, but I just didn't think the performance was stellar enough for a robbery cry. But again, I had 7-5 Ryder, but Smith is a good fighter. Again, arguably he's the number one guy in the division. But after his last performance, he's just so much like his other brothers. He's upright, he's stiff. He's not particularly hard to hit. He's a big guy, which serves him well. But he's even at 168, which is not Canelo's best weight class. He's just not on Canelo's level. I think Alvarez breezes to a pretty clear decision.
All right, if you have any questions or comments, you can chime in on Spreaker, where you can leave comments, or our Twitter direct message at Grueling Truth. And we have a comment from Matt K on Spreaker, who says Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo at a catchweight would be a great fight. Couldn't Billy Joe Saunders just fight Dimitri Bivol at a catchweight? Mark Breland would have to stop that before it even starts, I think.
Yeah. Sorry.
I know, you worked out, and now your throat's dry.
Yeah. Well, I tried getting some warm teas, to just quell the problem a little bit. I think it's worked a little bit, but yeah. I mean, I think that's an excellent suggestion, and I think this guy for chiming in. Everybody who comments, whether it's good or bad, I appreciate it. It means they're listening, and I think that's a great suggestion. I would love to see Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez at 168, even 175.
What about against Billy Joe Saunders?
Yeah. I mean, I would actually like to see that too, because Billy Joe Saunders is not. I actually like Billy Joe quite a bit coming up, because he was beating a good number of undefeated guys. I mean, I've gone over this on podcasts previously, but he took Eubank Jr.'s O. I know he took the Australian guy's O as well, and I can't think of his name offhand, but I think Peter Quillen smashed him. And I know I think he took John Ryder's 0 as. Yeah, he fought John Ryder, if I'm not mistaken, and took his 0-2. Again, maybe I'm mistaken there, but I think he did. I think that would be good. I'd love to see Bivol fight him, because I think Bivol would whip him. I think his power would be a little bit more pronounced there. He'd be a little bit quicker, a little bit sharper overall. Personally, I'd rather not see Bivol at 168, because it's not a traditional division. And us on the podcast are more advocates of, the more traditional aspect of it. 168 is not particularly deep. Another fight I wouldn't mind is Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs is now at 168.
And we have a comment from a Randy, or I can't say your last name, Randy, but thanks for chiming in. He says that he doesn't see any way Danny Jacobs could beat Billy Joe Saunders.
It doesn't see anyway. I can't say
it. He did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. And again, I appreciate him chiming in, whether we agree or disagree. I mean, we get a lot of that on this show. It doesn't matter to me. I'm good with all of it, but saying that you can't see Danny Jacobs beat him, I just have to disagree with that. I mean, Danny Jacobs has shown that he's real close to the level of an old Golovkin. He was competitive with Canelo Alvarez. Billy Joe stylistically looks good when he's in shape, like he did against David Lemieux. But again, to me, Danny Jacobs has shown a higher level than Billy Joe Saunders. I know Danny Jacobs can hang with the best. A good class has to offer. Billy Joe, I'm just not sure of. I mean, an excellent performance over David Lemieux, who's a good fighter, big banger, but not well nuanced. Yeah, I mean, it tells me that he was near the top of 160, at least in the top 5. But I think that would be a damn good fight. I'd like to see it. Again, Bivol, I think, is a good fight, too. I'd favor Bivol just about over anybody at 168 if he made the move. But the point is regardless if we agree or disagree, the point is that Billy Joe Saunders has to step up his competition. He's just been getting too many easy ones of late.
All right, next up, Eric Gomez of Golden Boy Productions has confirmed that Jorge Linare has accepted a fight against Ryan Garcia on July the 11th. He just needs to go over the details to get the fight done. Like Ryan's last match against Francisco Fonseca, his bout against Linares will be streamed on DAZN. And Gomez said that the date for Garcia versus Linares could change during negotiations, but for now they're looking at the 11th of July, and the fight will take place at the Staples Center in L.A. I think this is a great fight. I think it's great for Garcia's career. It's a move up at the right time, and Linares is not a pushover.
Yeah. I've actually been in a lengthy debate. I exited out of it because it was hijacked, and so it's gone, much farther than I ever anticipated. But I think it's a damn good fight for Garcia at this stage. I mean, they're both. I think they're both under Golden Boy. I think Linares is, and if he isn't currently, I know he was at a juncture. But yeah, I think you could say that Linares is still a top 10-ish kind of lightweight. The Cano fight was 140, but he looked sharp in his last outing, and actually he whooped a guy that Ryan Garcia got a split decision with. But, of course, Ryan Garcia looks a bit better than he did that night. He looks like he's getting a bit quicker. Looks like the training's a bit better. Maybe he's learning a few things off Canelo Alvarez being in camp with him. But, yeah, I think that's an excellent fight at this stage. I mean, Garcia hasn't taken on – as good as he looks, he hasn't taken on a real contender. I think Linares qualifies as that. And I think it's going to be really interesting because Linares is an excellent offensive fighter, very fluid with his combinations, but he has paper mache for skin, and he doesn't take a good punch. So, there's always going to be that sense of drama there. And given that, I don't know how good Ryan Garcia's chin is. I mean, I've seen him take some shots. But when you evaluate his level of competition, most guys that he's beating they're smaller guys, right? They're not big bangers. So this should provide some answers. Granted, Linares doesn't get knocked out early. I'm very interested in this one.
Twitter comment from VT69. Other than a fast left hook, what does Linares have to fear from the Twitter twerp? If the fight goes past the 6th or 7th rounds, then I look for the Twitter twerp to run. I would say this. I kind of probably would have been on this same thing until I saw Garcia the last fight, and his competition was not outstanding, but I thought he looked really good. We don't know what happens when he gets tagged, but this fight is all of a sudden a lot more intriguing to me just because Garcia, I think, has a really good chance to win this fight. I mean, I'm sure he'll go in probably as the favorite, and a decent-sized favorite.
Yeah. I think you're definitely right. And I understand that. And again, we appreciate everybody who comments. Appreciate it, good or bad. And we've had some pretty bad ones on this show, but ones we can't read out loud. We had to talk about off air.
So
yeah, we've had some of those too.
Yeah, but John hadn't been on since Sunday.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that there. But, I think you're right. Ryan Garcia will enter as a significant favorite there. I'm with you. He has looked, better as of late. He looks like he's progressing. But I also understand the skepticism in the commenters. I understand the skepticism there, right? I get where he's going. Like this guy, he's got a bunch of Instagram followers. He's got about a bunch of chicks commenting on his stuff. And, right, it feels kind of like he's
jealous, you think?
No, I don't think he's jealous. I just think
I think he's jealous of all the girls that pay attention to Ryan Garcia.
there are a lot of girls, man. And you check out that Twitter or Instagram feed, and you'll see lots of thirsty women there. But the thing about it is that don't really know what Ryan Garcia is. So again, that's why I understand the skepticism, because I like what I've seen out of Ryan Garcia lately. But to me, is he the future? I'm not sure that at all. I mean, he's got to prove it against somebody before we start making these insinuations. And Mike, you and I, we've been doing this show forever. The proof has got to be in the pudding. You got to beat somebody before, we start touting you as somebody, the next special thing. He hasn't done that yet, but we'll know soon enough.
Yeah, but I think that there is the possibility that it is. I hope he does it, though, because I'm jealous. So, next up, David Benavidez will be defending his WBC super middleweight title against former IBF 168-pound champion Caleb Truax on April the 18th on Showtime. This was reported by Mike Coppinger today. I think it's probably a step up for Benavidez. Truex is a tough kid. He's been on the show before. I like him. He's a good guy. What do you think here? Does Truex have any legit chance to win this fight?
Oh man, I'm like you. I think Truax is a good fighter. I think he seems like a good dude, and I've got a lot of respect for him because he was somebody who's written off a long time ago. I mean, he got blown out by Peter Quillen early. And a lot of people just, they figured he was a fringe guy or like a gatekeeper. And then he goes and beats, DeGale, and now he's viewed as like a significantly better fighter. And, I know he said that Truex has said that, and I can't remember, maybe you remember because you did the interview with him. I wasn't on that show, but I know he had, I don't want to call it, he had reasons for why he wasn't 100% against Peter Quillen. Seems like there's some validity to it because he's been fighting.
There was. I think it was his wife. They just found out was really sick or so. I don't remember the exact story either because it was a couple of years ago. But I'll always say, is it an excuse or a reason? And I don't buy too many reasons. I think most everything is people looking for a way out or an excuse. But he had a reason.
Right. Yeah. And so because of that, part of me wants to, give Truax a real chance in here, and it is boxing. I mean, he's got a chance. I mean, we've seen crazier upsets for sure. I mean, hell, Truax was a pretty big underdog against DeGale, and he ended up upsetting the British apple cart there. But I think Benavidez is near his peak. He looks damn good. He might be the best 168-pounder in the world. He's got quick hands. Obviously, he's learned a bit sparring with Golovkin. He's become a better body puncher. Looked pretty good against Durrell once he, churned it up, went into an extra gear. Like the first few rounds, he looked like he was kind of feeling him out and wasn't doing a whole lot. Durrell tried to box and move, but, Benavidez did a good job of finding him, stringing combinations together, and getting the job done. But yeah, I think Benavidez is just going to be a bit too much here. It's not a bad fight. So long. Listen, I can deal with it. It's a better fight than Caleb Plant's opponent, Vincent Fagan Boots, who I pretty much called spot on the money there. It's better than that. Truax is better than that. So as long as this fight happens and Plant and Benavidez hopefully get together late this year, even though from what I've heard, that's not going to happen either. I've heard things, going in both directions there. Doesn't matter. That's a fight that needs to be made. Politically, there's no barriers. Let's get that done. But yeah, this time wasting stuff,
Well, we have a comment from Neil, and I think Neil's got his white guys mixed up. Interesting to see how this is going to pan out. Benavidez is huge at this weight, but isn't the greatest boxer. Plant is a good technical fighter with a bit of a dig. I fancy Plant for this. All right, Neil. We were waiting on you. And Neil, it's Caleb Truax, not Caleb Plant. All right, let's move on from there. But thanks for the comment. And,
I mean, maybe he's just making a future prediction. If you favor Plant over Benavidez, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because I'm not real sure about Benavidez because I think there's a lot of questions about him too. But I mean, how many guys don't we have a lot of questions about anymore?
Especially in today's boxing, when you fight, I mean, they just fight so, few. They just fight less, and so we have to wait much longer before we know who these guys actually are, and it sucks. And if you favor Plant over Benavidez when they finally fight, I'm cool with that. I mean, really, you look at their level of opposition, and there's not much to tease out between them. And Durrell had some success boxing early against Benavidez, and Plant is obviously sharper, quicker, whatever. So I just want to see it so I don't have to, sit here and wonder.
All right, my last thing. We have to go back to this Deontay Wilder fight, right?
Always. I think we got to do it for the next, well, I think until they, if they have the trilogy.
Yeah. So, Teddy Atlas basically made the comment that Deontay Wilder can't fight. And that's fine. But when he says Wilder can't fight, and he never has been able to, he picked Wilder to win this last fight.
Yep, sure did.
Oh
By
my
knockout.
God, Jeremiah, I'm a
What's up?
freaking genius. Maryland just came from 21 down to beat Minnesota 74-73, and the reason that is important is because once Maryland was down by 21, I bet them at 12-1 odds on just a $10 bet, which will now pay me $120.
Shit, man, you need to do a betting show with
With me
yeah,
and
with you,
Bobby Sheridan.
right? Yeah, I mean your XFL picks have been pretty spot on too.
Well, plus, I mean, who could ever forget betting and getting 20-1 odds, picking, my guy Tyson Fury to win by a 5th to 7th round knockout. That was a nice one too. But Teddy Atlas is full of shit a lot of times, don't you think?
Yeah,
I think he's right about he can't fight, but you say he can't fight, and my problem with that is you picked him to win the fight. So don't act like you've always said he couldn't box, because you picked him to beat a guy that could box. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. I mean, I like Teddy. I know some people don't, but I mean, Teddy's a big reason why I got into the sport of boxing. I mean, shit, the fight that really did the trick was him calling a fight on Friday Night Fights. I mean, Teddy's important to me. I mean, I don't know him on a personal level, but
he's still full of shit, though. I mean, we
yeah,
all know
yeah,
that.
right.
Hell, I'm full of shit.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is how many boxing guys are not full of shit at some point. I mean, that's the thing that's part of the reason why I'm not on Twitter that much, because
you're
it's
not
a lot,
full of shit.
Well, no, because I don't like conversing with people who are so sure of themselves in a game that's not that easy to predict. I mean, I see guys say it all the time, like, oh, this is going to happen, that is not going to happen, and some of them come true, some of them don't. But like most people, they don't count their losses and they move on. But in regard to Teddy Atlas, he said it because I remember his analysis. I don't watch his podcast or anything, but shit, I'd like to have him on. I know, Taylor and Raspani.
I like his podcast, and I like him. I just think he's full of shit. I just, like I said, I am too, so I'm not really talking crap about him.
Yeah. Well, and he said that because I remember in the pre-fight buildup, he was also saying, okay, once he learned that Tyson Fury was 273, he said it had something to do with Tyson's psychology and that he wasn't right. And I mean, he just got flat out wrong there. But I did see him on ESPN. I got to give him credit here because he did count his losses on air on ESPN with some dudes who don't know crap about the game. But he did say, I mean, he pretty much owned up to it. He was like, yeah, I said, Wilder couldn't fight. I thought Fury would lose. I thought he, psychologically he was damaged. But he got the job done, and it was a good performance, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, he just got it wrong here. I mean, for a guy who knows the game, I think he just read too much into it. And, yeah, I mean, he just fell flat on his face with this one.
Well, see,
and to your credit, Mike, you did call the knockout. I called a decision for Fury. You called a knockout. Hey, good for you, man.
Yeah, but I can tell you this. I would not bet. You can tell my sons because they're sitting there watching it with me. And they're like, my older son's like, man, you ought to just bet on Wilder. And I said, why? He said, because look at him. He's all ripped. And so I wouldn't bet until I saw Wilder took his shirt off. So I didn't make my bets because I made, in full disclosure, I made a bet first through third round at 20, I think it was 20-1 or 25-1. And then I made another bet 5th to 7th round on Fury. But I did not make that bet until he took his shirt off. And when he took his shirt off, he looked like he was in better shape than he was when he fought Wilder the first time. I don't care if he weighed more or not. He obviously did exactly what he said he did, which was do it the right way. And I think from what we saw there, he didn't gas at all. And I think there's no doubt that he was at that weight probably for a solid 3 months. He used that weight to his advantage. And, I mean, let's face it, he's 6'9", so 273 is not that bad. I mean, I watched Shaq play. He was, 7'1", 7'2", and weighed 320, and he ran up and down a basketball court for 2 hours a night, 81 times a year.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right there. I mean, personally, I wish, Fury would get his weight down a little bit. Again, I still think he could do the same thing, but be a bit sharper at like the weight he fought Wallen at, 256 or something, 250, 255. I liked him better when he was in the Klitschko fight, where he was like roughly 240. But yeah, man, I mean, he got it wrong. And to be honest, we did a prediction article for the Grueling Truth, and it was really close. It was damn near 50-50.
I think it was 9-8 Wilder, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and to be honest with you, it was significantly more in Wilder's favor until I added the predictions from you and Responti, and I got a few late ones in there, I think from Carlson and I can't remember who else. But yeah, I mean, when I initially put the article together, it was pretty heavily in Wilder's favor. And, the guys on there, I know a lot of them. They're smart guys. They've been hardcore fans for a long time. And it wasn't crazy at all to predict Wilder, but I mean, dude, he called it. He said he was going to go there and smash him.
I think everybody got caught up with the hardest puncher of all time crap.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that's over. Again, I don't hate Wilder as a fighter. It's just, and again, we've said this the past 2 nights, but we've been saying pretty much since Wilder became a world ranked fighter that he's not that special.
And again, my favorite thing I saw was when you posted to Montero on Facebook about him sitting there doing an interview where he told the people that to be in shape, that he basically carries a 45-pound backpack on his back at all times.
Yep. I mean, there's video out there. If you do a little research, I saw it on Twitter. You can see Deontay Wilder doing wind sprints with like a backpack on. I mean, when he tells Joe Rogan, I'm wearing 45 pounds to train. I mean, the fact that his legs are still that skinny, I think, tells you that it's genetic, and he should probably. That's why I think he should get skinnier. I just think he's just too top heavy at like 231. But yeah, I mean, all the excuses and everything are just ridiculous. I mean, it's bad, man. I mean, he had an excuse after the first Wilder fight. He said he hurt his hand or something. I didn't see any evidence of that. But nobody really paid attention to it because, we knew we were getting the second fight, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And now it's just ridiculous. He just needs to stay away from a microphone, go to Africa, come back. Get the third fight, because really, what better career option does he have at this point? And then hopefully we watch him get beat up again.
Yeah, I saw a meme today also. You remember the Coming to America thing where they're talking about Rocky Marciano?
Oh, jeez, dude.
And the dude says, Joe Louis. Yeah, and this dude says, what are you talking about, Deontay Wilder? He walked in the ring with a 450-pound suit on.
Yeah, I saw that. Was it was it narrated by some British guys? I might have seen a different version.
I don't know. It's on right now. I'm just reading what it says. Hold on here. I'll see if I can get some. Can you hear that?
A little bit.
Hold on here. I'll make it louder. Could you hear that?
It's still low.
We'll have to fix that. But, yeah. And I also like the person that's videoing the fight. You can hear the thump when Tyson Fury hits him. I just think people undersold how hard Fury can hit. And I'll bring this fight up again, too. And this is why I thought he would knock him out. When we run our old fights on The Grueling Truth, I remember posting maybe like a year ago his fight with Christian Hammer. And people are always saying, I mean, number one, Christian Hammer's a tough dude. He went the distance with Luis Ortiz, who's supposed to be a really good fighter.
Yeah.
But Tyson Fury beat Christian Hammer's ass and basically bludgeoned him to the ground. And I think people are missing the fact that I don't know if there's too many men that are that big that can't knock pretty much anybody out if they set their feet and throw a punch. And the thing is, we've seen in the past with Fury, not a lot, but when he has set his feet and thrown a punch, I mean, the dude can crack when he wants to. It's just he has been more prone to be a boxer, just outbox everybody, go with it like that. When he fought Klitschko, you'd have to be crazy to do that to Klitschko because Klitschko's got that big-ass jab, which is technically really good. And, I mean, they call him Dr. Steel Fist or Steel Hammer for a reason. So if he'd have fought Klitschko like that, I think he would have lost. But once again,
no, I agree.
It shows us how great this guy could be, the fact that he can beat you in multiple different ways.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, that's why some people are, comparing this to, other damn good performances because he's a traditional boxer who got aggressive. If he would have went at Klitschko like that, I think it would have been, pretty interesting because Klitschko, I mean, it would have probably been a jab and grab session. But you bring up Klitschko's jab, and I know I'm digressing here a little bit, but Chris Bird, Ring TV did a best I've faced with Chris Bird, and guess who he said the best jab ever was? Vladimir Klitschko. He said it was snappy, hard, understood distance.
He knocked people out with the jab before.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Klitschko had his shortcomings too. Everybody recognizes that. But the jab, to me, he had one of the best jabs in heavyweight history. Not the best jab, but it's up there.
Yeah, and Deontay Wilder doesn't. And
no,
people that say, I mean, we heard John for years say it was a poor man's Larry Holmes. I mean, number one, I don't know that I've ever seen a better jab from a big man than Larry Holmes. I mean, Larry Holmes I've seen Larry Holmes knock people down too with the jab. And the big thing, though, is this. Klitschko could at least throw a clean, straight 1-2. Larry Holmes could throw a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight punches. Deontay Wilder can't. And when you're a one-trick punter, you're one punch at a time. I mean, this is the thing. The way he fought, to me, is similar to, you remember Razor Ruddock?
Sure.
Where he'd throw one punch. I mean, Razor Ruddock fought Mike Tyson, and in the second fight, I thought he was pretty competitive with Tyson. He could have won the fight if he would have thrown more than one punch at a time. But what it ended up with, he would land one hard jab, not throw another punch. Tyson would come back, hit a 2-3 punch combination, and tie him up. They'd separate him, and then they would do the same thing over and over again for 12 rounds. And I think that's the big problem we have with today's heavyweights, because most of them are one-trick ponies. Jarrell Miller doesn't punch hard enough. He'll throw a lot of punches, but he doesn't punch hard enough. And Jarrell Miller is not going to walk down a quality big man and knock him out.
Yeah, no, I think that's partly because of the amateur system. Too many guys. I mean, you see it with the lack of infighting in today's fighters, where they're all pretty much staying at distance. A lot of them are sticking to ones and twos, and then they're just keeping their distance. I mean, it looks amateurish. And again, obviously these guys are pros, and they've been getting professional training and they're ironing out their skills. But especially when you look at the heavyweights, that's more prevalent than anywhere. I mean, look at Tony Yoka, right? I mean, he looks like a byproduct of the European amateur system. Lots of jabs, lots of crosses. Filip Hrgovic, same thing. Anthony Joshua. Joshua's a little bit better rounded because he likes.
A guy who I think is a little bit different, who is younger, is maybe Dubois, because I've actually seen him throw 4 and 5 punch combinations.
Yeah, yeah.
He's still kind of mechanical, but
yes.
He does throw more than 1 or 2 punches at a time.
Right. So my thing with Dubois is he might turn out to be the best heavyweight prospect out there, but he still does. I mean, his game is still heavily reliant on the 1s and 1-2s, and he is upright and pretty stiff.
And my bet is when he fights somebody who's really good, the combinations go away and you just see the 1s and the 1-2s.
Right. Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say next. So good point, of course. And again, you look at the other guys. There's a few like Russians and there's a few Russians and other guys from Central Asia coming up, and they look pretty similar too. They're stiff, not a lot of head movement. Alexander Teslenko is a guy from Ukraine who I think looks pretty good so far, but again, he looks like the other guys where he's just upright. He's pretty stiff, jabs and 1-2s. Yeah, but I do have a comment that I had from a fan that I would like to put on air too. I forgot this last night, but part of the reason I didn't do it last night is because my voice was a little bit worse for wear. But this is from Doug Matthews, who I've known for years. He's a real boxing historian, good dude, pays attention to the show. I think he listens every time we do one. But he wants to know. He wants to know our thoughts on rematch clauses for big fights. He thinks they should do away with them, that it should be predicated on performance, and I absolutely agree with it. I mean, I'll turn it over to you, but I agree. I mean, how can you not agree? I mean,
repeat that, because we got a question on Twitter too that I got to remember to ask, and I was just reading it. Go ahead.
Okay, so again, this is Doug Matthews. Thank you. We appreciate it. I appreciate you, man. I mean, you've been a buddy of mine on Facebook for years now, and he runs a great group too called Classic Boxing Society. But he asked what our opinion is on rematch clauses in big fights. His opinion is that they should be done away with, or it should all be based on your performance. So like Fury Wilder, as we saw the rematch. Fury blew him away. Hardly anybody wants to see a third fight, except John maybe. But
William Pounds, because William Pounds today told me that in a third fight, Fury would get slept.
Well, I think he's dreaming, but we won't know until we get a third fight. But I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think it should be in the contract that your performance, indicates whether or not you get a third fight or whether you get a rematch. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, just after watching Fury whip Wilder's butt, the steam for a third fight is really like the wind is taken out of my sails for that. I'm not that interested in it. What do you think?
I'm pumped up for a third fight because I love watching Deontay Wilder get it felled. And also, I'll be able to make some more money off of it. I would say it has to be performance based. I'm almost to the point though where I do think if you're the champion, you get a rematch clause. That's fine. But my problem with that is this: who's the champion? I mean, we didn't really have a champion coming into this fight. I don't care about belts. The lineal thing. I mean, Tyson Fury basically retired. He got suspended for failing a couple drug tests. So to me, the lineal thing means nothing at that time. The WBC heavyweight champion thing means nothing at that time. But I'll also tell you this. They want to make the rematch because they probably made a lot of money off of it. But overall, I don't like it because a lot of times in the past, when you say had, a champion that was owned by Don King, own's a bad word, but when it's Don King, it fits. But when Don King owned the champion, a lot of times, he would fight the number one contender, and there wouldn't be a rematch clause. Or vice versa, if you know what I mean. Because usually the rematch clause favors the champion. So the champion may not have one in, or the way King did it, from what I remember, is there was a rematch clause if you lost the fight, but no rematch clause if his guy won. So that played that way. To tell you the truth, I really don't care, because the other thing I learned a long time ago, contracts in boxing aren't worth the paper they're written on usually. And if they really want to pay Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury $200 million to fight, Deontay Wilder's going to have to wait. They'll give him a couple $1 million. He'll shut up, and they'll fight in December or something. So my point is this. If they really want to fight, the promoters have enough money to get somebody to step aside. I mean, Mike Tyson paid Lennox Lewis to step aside at least once that I remember.
We got another comment?
me. No, that was it on that. But yes, I do have a comment from Hamed. Hamed says, who do you think, guys, would have won, Joshua or Wilder, when they were both undefeated? Jeremiah?
Joshua. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how, and again, Mike, we've been on top of this shit forever, but it's funny how the narrative changes. And I use this example because I've used it in the past, where, you see these boxing groups on Facebook and stuff, and people are like, oh, well, who wins between Anthony Joshua? And this is when he was undefeated, right? Who wins between Anthony Joshua and Tommy Morrison? And it was like 80% Anthony Joshua. Then Anthony Joshua gets stopped by Andy Ruiz. I saw the same question asked. Now it's like flipped.
Yeah, ain't
like
nobody asking about Deontay Wilder beating Mike Tyson anymore either.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I did see on Boxing 24 forum, people were asking who would win between Riddick Bowe and Deontay Wilder, and I'm like, Jesus, man, come on.
I'll tell you this: if you think that Riddick Bowe would have lost to Deontay Wilder, you're a complete imbecile. I mean, you're about as dumb can be.
Well, unless you're talking about Bowe in his last fight or something.
No, unless you're talking about Bowe today against Wilder today. Then I think Wilder's got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
Because Riddick Bowe was a really talented dude. And if you throw Deontay Wilder in Evander Holyfield's place, November of 92, and you say, all right, ding, ding, let's fight, Riddick Bowe starches his ass in a round because I've said it before and I've say it again. Deontay Wilder isn't any fucking good. He's not. He's a big African-American king. He wears a 45-pound thing into the thing because he's a warrior. And then he gets his ass tore up by basically a depressed cokehead. He gets his ass beat down. And then everybody wants to make excuses for this great warrior. And he's not a warrior. He's just a normal person like me or you. He just grew up to be 6'7", 230 pounds, and he had a decent punch. I'll tell you this, Anthony Joshua would have beat the living hell out of Deontay Wilder because of one simple fact. Deontay Wilder is full of crap. He's not one of the hardest punchers in heavyweight history because who the hell did he knock out? Luis Ortiz, who's like 48 years old on blood pressure medicine from Cuba. That was his best win. Deontay Wilder ain't shit. He ain't ever gonna be shit. If he fights Tyson Fury
ain't gonna
again,
be shit.
Tyson
kids
Fury
ain't gonna be shit.
will beat his ass worse than he did before. You think he talks messed up now? Wait till that third fight. And all you people out there talking about he's going to sleep Tyson Fury. Number one, when I grew up, you just knocked a motherfucker out. Now you got to talk about sleeping somebody. That's dumb as hell. That's just stupid. And you're an absolute moron if you think Deontay Wilder can beat anybody that has any boxing skills at all. His feet are right beside each other, or they're way too wide. He has no balance. He throws one punch at a time. He throws a half-assed jab, and then he swings a big right. He was exposed. The gig is up. There is no more Deontay Wilder. They could throw him in for another payday, and Tyson Fury will whoop his ass again. If he fights Anthony Joshua will whoop his ass again. And now for people to say, no, Deontay Wilder would knock him out, I'll give you this. Anthony Joshua did get knocked out by Andy Ruiz. All right? Now, the second time they fought, he changed the game. And everybody said, well, he ran like a chicken. No, he did what he had to do to win. That's what a warrior does. A warrior doesn't get shot in the arm, go get a Purple Heart, and then go charge up the hill again. He figures out a way to get up that hill without getting shot again. That's what a warrior does. Deontay Wilder is a moron. Anthony Joshua fought a completely different fight. Deontay Wilder is not capable of that because, once again, he sucks. So, there you go, Hamed. That's my answer.
Sure, Hamed will appreciate that. But I mean, it's true. I mean, Anthony Joshua, he has shown a capacity for change, and because of that, that's the reason why I would favor him. He's technically better. I mean, is it possible, that he could get clipped and go down? Sure, but I mean, I just think with Josh.
You know, this is the thing, and this is what I was going to bring up, too, before I went on my rant and forgot what I was talking about. But Anthony Joshua got clipped by Vladimir Klitschko, and he got back up and won. A 41-year-old Vladimir Steelhammer Klitschko hits harder than Deontay Wilder. How do I know that? Because I watched him defend his title for a decade and not get beat because most people are afraid to mess with his ass.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and we've been talking about this. Actually, I was, when I was reading the Chris Bird Best I've Faced, and he actually said that the hardest hitter he ever fought was DeVario Williamson, who has made a home in Colorado where I live, and he's got a gym here, and I know my brother's talked to him and whatnot. I've never met him personally, but I know he has.
Get him on the show. I liked him. He could punch.
Yeah, he was a serious
amateur too, if I remember right. Wasn't he?
If I'm not mistaken, he was one of the best American heavyweight amateurs we had in terms of like overall record and because I know he fought Felix Savone. He was a good fighter. He was a damn good amateur, and he gave Vladimir Klitschko a real tough time before that fight is fuzzy because I haven't seen it. Oh hell, probably since it happened, but I think there was a head clash and that there was just too much blood and they stopped it. But it was a damn interesting fight. Williamson didn't have a good chin. He was upright, not very much head movement at all. But Wilder kind of strikes me as a Williamson type fighter. He has less nuance, actually. His balance is worse.
DeVrell Williamson, DeVrell would have slept Deontay Wilder.
Dude, well, that's what I said on this. That's what I said. The best of Ariel Williamson would be a very tough fight for Deontay Wilder. I mean,
Martin would have knocked him out.
Well, okay, now you're getting ridiculous here, but
it'd be a good fight, though. You got to admit that because Christie would.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like some of these people don't actually watch boxing. I mean, I remember talking about how Burt Cooper could possibly beaten Deontay Wilder. Do you remember Maurice Harris?
Yeah, I remember Maurice Harris. He was really good. He almost upset Larry Holmes. A lot of people thought he did beat Holmes.
Yeah, that was a split decision. That was a close fight. Actually, I saw a guy say it was a robbery today. I haven't seen the fight, so I can't say.
I do believe that Harris won the fight. I think that was on Tuesday Night Fights, too, back in the day.
Yeah, I remember reading a New York Times article about it, but that was the thing is Chris Bird actually gave a lot of credit to Maurice Harris. He was like Lennox Lewis and a few other guys. They didn't want to spar with Harris because they knew how talented he really was. And, I've seen some guys say that, he just never developed. He got jobbed a few times. And he actually had some rock-solid wins on his resume. Dude, just because you got to watch the boxing. Guys like Burt Cooper, Maurice Harris, you look at their resumes and you're like, oh, this like a journeyman. Yeah, they were journeymen in the grand scheme of things, but at their best, they were pretty damn good.
The thing I remember about Maurice Williams was he also won on HBO. I think he beat David Izon. And for somehow he lost to Von Bean before that, who got like multiple title shots because he was one of the guys that Don King owned, and he got everybody multiple title shots. But after beating Izon in this big upset, he lost a majority decision to a dude that was like 4-5-1, and then he loses to a guy that's like 5-0, and then he knocked out Jimmy Thunder. Jimmy Thunder was a solid guy. And I think that was on USA also. And then I thought he beat Larry Holmes, but they didn't give it to him. And then I'm pretty sure, beat Louis Monaco, and he beat Jeremy Williams. I can't remember if Williams was on I think it might have been on HBO, because it seems to me like that was Madison Square Garden. And then basically the end of him was when he lost to... I just converted this fight.
Jefferson?
Yeah, Derek Jefferson. And he did beat Harold Sconiers.
That's right. I don't think he got knocked down either.
Yeah, and then it looked like he was done because like Chris Bird and that one British guy that wasn't very good beat him.
Akinwande?
Oh, Henry Akinwande. But when it looked like he was done, then all of a sudden he jumped up and I think he beat Liakovic. And then he got knocked out by Frezekindo, and that was pretty much it. He fought a bunch of nondescript guys after that. But when you fast forward, do you remember Albert's, what was his name, Sonowitzki?
Right.
who wasn't a bad fighter, got a shot against Klitschko, and he fought him. It was overseas. It was either Germany or Great Britain, and I thought he actually beat Sonoswowski.
Yeah.
And that was like 2013 or 14.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. I mean, he beat Lyahovich, who was a pretty good fighter. I mean, actually go to our Facebook page, go to the Grueling Truth Facebook page, and watch his fight with Lamont Brewster, which was a nice little upset and a damn good fight. Yeah. I ended up watching it after you told me to, because I know I'd seen it before. It was all fuzzy to me. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like people write these guys off, like the Maurice Harrises of the world.
Well,
and
when
Burt
you look
Cooper's.
at Maurice's Harris record, you kind of write it off because, I think his final record was like 25-24 or something, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Okay.
I know you're close, 26-22.
All right. I would be on BoxRec cheating, but Hamed keeps sending me messages. Hamed liked my answer to today's one question. He says, would Monty Barrett beat Deontay Wilder?
Okay, well, I would favor Wilder there. Barrett was pretty good, but to me, Barrett never really had. Wilder at least has that X factor where he can end a fight at any moment. Barrett, he's not really. I think Barrett was just. I don't think he could have withstood the power. I think they would have boxed in the center of the ring, and eventually he would have got clipped. I think Wilder would have a pretty good chance against another stiff guy like Moskaev. But if Wilder got cracked by Moskaev, that could be it too. Rockman, McCall. I mean, dude, if Lennox Lewis is getting upset by McCall, if he's getting upset by Rockman, I think people are over. I think they're not evaluating history through the proper lens. If you're like, oh well, Deontay Wilder would never lose to Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper.
Oh shit! Burt Cooper would have wore his ass out.
Well, but this is the thing, and you know, and we both know this. But when you evaluate history and you look at Klitschko got upset by Klitschko is a greater fighter than Wilder, no doubt about it. He got upset by guys like this. Right? I mean, so you're telling me Deontay Wilder couldn't lose to, DeVario Williamson, or he couldn't potentially lose to.
Yeah, but the difference is this: DeVario Williamson was better than Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, he had more skill. And what is the example we've been using? At least I know I've been.
For Hamed's answer, I think Monte Barrett, style-wise, would probably lose.
Yeah, I just think he stands in the middle of the ring too much. I just think he's like bound to get clipped.
I think he's going to stand there and wait to catch that 1-2.
Yeah, I think he's bound to get clipped and get out of there. But dude, I mean, how many examples have we used? Michael Grant, I know is an example we've used on the show a lot. If Grant went right after Wilder the way he did Lennox Lewis, he could stop Wilder. I mean, Well,
we got to give Hamed credit though, because he did come up with a fighter that I think that Deontay Wilder could beat.
Yeah, thank you, Hamed.
But Scott Ledoux would have kicked Deontay Wilder's ass.
Oh, yeah,
all right, Jeremiah, anything else
too.
before we wrap it up? Because I really got to pee.
Yeah, no, let's wrap it up. Again, I want to thank everybody who tuned in, everybody who commented. Again, good or bad, we really appreciate it. We love the feedback. Rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you.
All right, and if you guys keep listening, we'll keep doing it every night, especially for Steve McGowan on YouTube. So, and we're sorry about the first question that our guest asked. We thought it was nuts too, Stephen. But, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I wanted to remind you can follow us. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. You can follow Jeremiah at TGTN Boxing. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube. You name it, we're there. And we will be here tomorrow night at 11 o'clock for another Inside Boxing Daily. So make sure you're here with us. For now, for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.